The worst thing in Final Fantasy XIV is playing at level 50. Hello Void, it's Eldon, and I will occasionally play Roulettes. And when I'm playing Roulettes, I will occasionally get queued into a level 50 duty. This is my least favorite time to be playing 14, and that is because the level 50 kits are terrible. Almost universally, they are a shadowy pale imitation of what the job is at max level. They are anemic, soulless things, and they need to be fixed. Before I go off, please take a moment to consider subscribing. We're making videos basically every week about 14, and if you enjoy them, please subscribe. Hopefully this will be a short video, because I can't imagine people need much convincing that the level 50 kits are a problem. Long ago, this game was complete at level 50, and the job was built up naturally to there. However, over the years, new iterations on all the jobs have changed where they get their mechanics to be around the max level when the job was reworked. New abilities have been added from that point. As a newer example, when they reworked Summoner, they started to introduce the special actions for each of the summons at level 80, the starting level for Endwalker. This means that the previous 80 levels have you just summoning the primals and using their basic GCDs. This has not changed. For 80% of the game, playing as a summoner means you're just casting your GCDs. And this is true for basically every other job. The game does not spread out its new abilities evenly. From the point the job was reworked onward, new abilities are added on a per expansion basis. If in Endwalker the job got a new finisher, then you'll probably get that finisher at 90, Endwalker's max level. If a job was reworked at a point, then you will get the majority of the reworked kit from the starting level of the expansion it was reworked in to the max level of that expansion 10 levels later. This is so foolish, it's dumb, and it doesn't make sense for 14 as a game. In a traditional RPG, you gaining new abilities as you level up makes sense. The challenges presented allow new tools being added to your kit to change your strategy, change the way you play. You will periodically rework your team comp or your game plan around these new abilities so you can keep up with the level of enemies you are fighting. New abilities are distinct tools that can be used in many ways with many other things. This loop of adding new abilities to your roster creates an incredible feedback system that keeps you going in an RPG, even if you're not captured by things like the story. 14 is not like this. In 14, getting a new ability will only ever do 3 things. It will either 1. Not change the way you play the game at all. If you upgrade your 1-2-3 combo finisher, you don't change anything. You just make the job a little bit better. 2. Make the job actually playable. I'm sorry, before level 50, I can't use the single target samurai sticker actions because I don't have my full suite of combos. It's just completely unfinished. I have to use AoE. Or 3. Entirely change the way you play the job. You're saying, now as a gunbreaker, I have all these bullets and I have to manage using them. And my whole job has become about using and managing these bullet gauges I didn't have at all before this. This is because the jobs in 14 are not RPG kits. They are not bundles of tools that you can use creatively. They are very specific systems designed for very specific fights at max level. Every button on your hotbar has a use and you'll be pressing most of them. Because of this, as you're leveling up, you're not getting fun new tools, you're getting pieces of an incomplete puzzle, and being asked to solve that puzzle repeatedly. Have you ever solved 90% of a puzzle, then had to wait real time and put in actual effort to earn the last couple of pieces so you can finish it? That's not rewarding. That's insane. That's a bad man's saw trap game. That's crazy. It doesn't make sense to use this traditional method of slow burn unlocking different buttons on your hotbar for 14. And it makes even less sense because the levels at which you unlock things are not designed well or really thought out. There is a general scheme of things about when you'll get things like AoE, when you'll learn certain utilities, but it's not consistent and it doesn't really make sense. Why does Dark Knight not get their group mitigation until after level 70, when Paladin gets it as their level 70 capstone skill? This method also doesn't make sense for 14 because it's not the way the game is played. The first job you level in 14 will be done through the MSQ, which will level you up regardless of how much effort you put into it. Because of the way you're playing through the MSQ, new abilities aren't really going to change your game plan. Getting a new finisher before the level 98 dungeon isn't going to change the way your job works. It's just going to make it a little bit less shit. You also don't even need to incorporate the new skills into your gameplay to succeed, because half the time you're fighting enemies in purple circles, and the other half of the time you're just playing through the same type of dungeon that you've been playing through for the last 4 expansions, but with one new ability that may be useful in AoE or may not be. This is even worse for new players starting out. Imagine starting out at level 1 and having to use these anemic kits for 400 hours because you chose a job that was reworked in Endwalker. None of these abilities really impact the way your job plays or force you to reconsider anything or whether or not you're doing things well. It just makes your experience worse until you finally have all the pieces and can put them together and enjoy the endgame. In all regards, unlocking individual buttons as you level up for 14 is stupid. It's not rewarding, it's not fun, and it doesn't really make sense for the game. And even worse than that is because of the way 14 is set up around the roulette system and level scaling, you have to consistently go back to that lowest level of content and experience those jobs with their incomplete kit. You are using your level 50 kit not infrequently. This untouched, wriggling thing that hasn't been looked at since the Dark Ages. You have to go back and use all of these half-mangled abilities to try and help new players through dungeons. Now, I understand why they can't make you have your full level 100 ability suite, even at earlier levels. The math doesn't work out. You just have way more buttons at the higher level, which means regardless of how scaling works out, you would be so much more effective than someone just starting out. And you can't give people their full level 100 kits really early, because that would be entirely overwhelming, and it would make the game incredibly inscrutable to new players. However, this problem that exists, this impasse, only exists because skills are unlocked so infrequently and inconsistently. You have to go back and experience these terrible kits, when if we just designed them in a reasonable way to begin with, it would not be an issue. It just doesn't make sense. It seems not thought out, not well considered. So let's consider it. Here's the solution I've come to. You can't just let people use their max level kits. That doesn't make sense. It would be a balancing nightmare, and new players would not know what they were doing. But how about instead of unlocking abilities on a per level basis, unlocking one button at a time, we unlock abilities in batches. Sure, you can start out before level 15 with just your basic 1, 2, 3. At level 15 though, you should get a bunch of new abilities. The core kit of your job. AoEs, a few utilities, that kind of thing. Once you reach level 30 and you unlock your job stone, you should probably get access to your first full system. For Samurai, you get access to every single one of your combos and stickers. By level 50, you should have a sizable fraction of your job, as it will be towards endgame. Then, depending on the amount of extra systems your job has, you can unlock those at the premier levels going forward. So you might unlock a new system at level 70, 90, and so on. What this system would do is allow every iteration of a job to be functional for the content you're playing it in. It would allow you to have a known approach when going in, depending on where you're going. It would also let different activities have a different complete experience, but no activity have some mangled incomplete stuff. If you're going back to a Heavensward dungeon, you'll know you'll have a decent amount of your final kit. What this does abandon is the other thing we haven't really talked about, which is the fact that 14 jobs are designed around the newest expansion. Personally speaking, I don't think stepping into a new expansion with a suite of new abilities would be a bad thing. I don't think there'd be much of a difference between starting out with all these new abilities in a new complete-ish kit, minus say one finisher, versus stepping in and having 5 or 6 new abilities to unlock incrementally. I'm not playing this new expansion for the cool new abilities. I'm not being pulled along by the idea that pretty soon I'll have just a little bit more complete of a kit. I want to play with a complete kit. I want to play the job as it was meant to be played. If I have to wait till level 100 to get the final skill, that's fine. But having like a third of Viper's interesting mechanics locked behind levels 92, 96, 98 respectively is not necessarily something that I find engaging. It's a traditional way an RPG is designed, but it doesn't really work in 14, and it causes so many larger issues that it's just not worth keeping around. 14 should add in set points where you get a collection of abilities, where you can expand your kit to be a larger portion of what it will eventually be designed around. New players should be able to flesh out their understanding in set increments instead of having to grasp a completely incomplete picture. Instead of having to put together mechanics over the course of many levels, they should get mechanics complete and work them into their game plan, into the way they play the game. And we don't need to care about the new expansion experience. Getting new skills immediately is not a bad thing, and spacing them out over the course of the expansion and never going back to look at them is foolish. 14 does not have 100 levels of interesting individual buttons to add to a job, so we shouldn't treat it like it does. I don't need to have a new ability every X levels. I want a complete job all the time, and they can do that if they abandon their preconceived notions of what an RPG should be and do what makes sense for the game. And that's it. I just needed to talk about this. I really dislike the way that the kits are set up at level 50, and before then, it's just really boring, and it's made it really hard for me to try and invite new people into this game because it will legitimately take over 400 hours for them to have a fun experience with the job design itself. This is an area they definitely need to look at going into 8.0. I think maybe adding in a new starting point would definitely help, but even just going back and making sure that at every level, these jobs are fun and a complete experience would go a long way towards making this game more approachable and more fun for people level scaled down. Let me know what you think. What job do you think is the worst at level 50? For my money, I think it might be Reaper. It might be Viper also, though I haven't really played them level scaled down too much. Let me know what you think is the worst below. And if you enjoyed this video or want to hear more, please subscribe. I really like seeing the number go up, and it helps me out a lot. If you want to actually support me as like a creator, then I made a game. It's called Pilgrim Unto Shadow. The demo is free on Steam. We have a Kickstarter going this month if you want to support it. It's a very fun RPG with Punch-Out-like combat and open exploration. Either way, and before you go, do remember the long road out there, Void. So take it easy and keep moving forward. Ta-ta!